Namaste. Welcome to आध्यात्मिक एंड परमार्थ चैनल। आज एक नए विषय पे आए हैं जो माय जर्नी टू स्पिरिचुअलिटी। एक यंग डायनामिक पर्सन है बैंकॉक में। आई एम श्योर दैट यू विल बी definitely you will take his tips. He's a finance professional and he has experience exploring what spirituality and dharma means to him and how he relates to its spirituality needs and demands of 21st century. हमें समय पे चलना चाहिए, हम 2 मिनट लेट हैं, क्षमा चाहते हैं। तो विदाउट डिलेइंग लेट्स वेलकम वेद व्यास जी।
Thank you, Mr. Thakur. Thank you for that
नमस्ते।
introduction.
नमस्ते जी।
Namaste. Yeah,
जी
I saw on one of your previous episodes of this, you started with a prayer. So
जी
I would
तो
like to
लेट्स
start this session today with a prayer as well.
यस
It's called the Shanti Part. It's a prayer for peace.
यस
Um, Om Dyauhu Shantirantarikshagun Shantihi Prithivi Shantirapah Shantirokhadhayah Shantihi Vanaspatayah Shantirvishve Devah Shantirbrahma Shantihi Sarvagum Shantihi शांतिरेव शांति सामा शांतिरेधि ओम शांति शांति शांति
जी fantastic. You started with the prayers. Actually I start today. You have done very good. Thumbs up to you. Yes.
if you want to say a prayer, we can say another prayer. That's perfectly fine.
No. It's at the end we'll say another prayer. Yes.
All right.
Now,
Okay.
actually, I'm very excited. I was very excited to see you on a show because previously I've been calling all the elderly peer persons. Today I have the young dynamic person over here. So let's go. Let's see viewers listen from you how you came into the spirituality, how it attracts to you, and how in a young age, mostly in Bangkok, people definitely say Bangkok में लड़का ऐसा so, so I'm catering this especially this episode for the youth, the young people. तो spirituality सब में है, लेकिन कई अलग अलग तरीके से दिखाते हैं। कोई एक संस्कार जो हैं जो आपके घर से मिले हुए हैं। तो लेट्स स्टार्ट विथ यू। चलो आप अपना छोटा सा इंट्रोडक्शन दीजिए। बैंकॉक में पैदा हुए हैं, बैंकॉक में जी
Yeah, sure. And please feel free to interrupt me at any point.
जी
Um, it's not an easy topic to talk about, spirituality. It's basically all encompassing. It covers pretty much all the aspects of our lives. But I'll try to share a bit about my personal life and see if I can take the audience on a spiritual journey with me. Just want to give a bit of a background. So around late last year, yourself, Mr. Thakur, and Mr. Kaushal Bamwani reached out to me, and you both had the vision that you would like to engage the youth of today and of our society to have these spiritual discussions. So first of all, allow me to congratulate you on being able to do that. Um, Unfortunately and very sadly, a week after we had that discussion, Mr. Kaushal passed away very untimely. So today's discussion I dedicate to him. And he was
that's
very
fine.
keen on having these sessions, particularly being interactive and engaging the youth. So I think we will all do a great service to him if we, especially the younger member of the audience who are joining us today, at any point, if you would like to interrupt, I mean, I'm sure we can have a discussion after we are done here as well. But if at any point you guys want to make this interactive, stop me, ask me questions or anything like that, then I think that will be very, very beautiful.
Yeah, viewers are going
So,
to put their questions on a screen, so we'll see that and we'll
okay,
reply to that
great.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
very useful. All right.
So let's fasten the bells, and your journey starts from now on.
Thanks again, Mr. Thakur, for giving me this platform. So, yeah, I just want to share with you guys my life story of where it began, what sort of adventures I went on, and where have I ended up today, and what sort of message I might have for you guys who are joining us on this call. So, I was born in 1986 in India at a popular tourist destination called Mount Abu. It's in Rajasthan, bordering Gujarat. And both my parents were working there as teachers at that time. And there's actually a very nice little anecdote from that time. So my parents, they were working for a school which was under the tutelage of a monastery. And there was Swamiji, a monk, who used to live there, and he was very well respected. And my parents would go and visit him on a weekly basis. And one day my parents went there, and the Swamiji just looked at my dad and he said, Mahadevji is about to come, please make preparations. And my parents had no idea at that time what he meant. And it was only later that they found out that my mother was pregnant with me. And he always referred to me as Mahadevji is about to come. So get ready for this. So I guess, spirituality in my life, spirituality really goes before I was even born as well. And really, well before that time, Mr. Thakur, you know my father well. He's working here in Bangkok as a priest. Um, his education in India was the traditional Gurukul, studying under Guruji from a very young age, and studying Sanskrit and the traditional Hindu Vedic wisdom, which has been passed down to me as well. So that's where I was born, in Mount Abu, and it was announced by the Swamiji beforehand. While my mother was pregnant, she was also reading a book called Shankar Digvijay, which is the biography of Sri Shankaracharya. So
Mhm.
there was all this divine wisdom coming before an early age as well. And both my parents were teachers as well. And I guess that's where I get a bit of this sense of wanting to give back to the society as well. And I'm very grateful to them for that. Around the age of 5, I was reading a children's storybook and I saw some very nice pictures in there. And one of the pictures was of a very cute little baby. And I went to my parents and I said, I want a cute little brother like this. And so I got a brother. So life was very divine, very magical in the early parts for me. And then my father moved to Bangkok, and a couple of years after that, we moved to live with him over here as well. And my early childhood years were spent growing up in a temple where there were all these great speakers coming and giving lectures and giving sermons, and a lot of great holy people from India and all around the world would visit. Obviously, at that time, for a child to be able to comprehend all of these things was a bit beyond me. And I think sometimes what also happens is when you are too close to anything, you might not have the true value for it. So it was right in my backyard, and all this spirituality stuff. I was like, okay, cool. This is great, but I'm more focused on science. I'm more interested in mathematics. I want to be an engineer. Um, and so that journey sort of took me to Imperial College London. Actually, the way the whole academic life panned out for me is also quite interesting. Till the age of about 14, 15, I was a very average student, getting middling grades. But every time I spoke to my mother about it, she always said, it's only because you're not, very sincere about it. The day you start taking interest, I know that you are a capable boy. And I didn't know what she meant. But suddenly, one day out of the blue, everything started to make sense. Mathematics was like music to me, and science was something very, very fascinating for me. And then I knew that I wanted to go down this, let's call it the scientific route, or if we are discussing spirituality today, then materialism tends to be the other extreme, and spirituality is one other extreme. And I think I'm going to explore the spectrum a little bit as we go through my life story. So I became an engineer, very hard facts kind of person. believing in analysis and statistics and facts and evidence. And it was a beautiful journey going to Imperial College, to London, to studying with some great people over there. And after a couple of years of doing that, I ended up with a job in investment banking because that was all the rage at that time. I graduated in 2007, so this was before the global financial crisis. And becoming an investment banker was the hottest thing in town. And my friend said, it would be really cool if you became an investment banker. So I went in that direction. And now anybody who knows the lifestyle of an investment banker would be scratching their head and wondering, why is this investment banker telling me about spirituality today? Um, but it was an important part of the journey, I would say. I was on one end of the spectrum, and at that time, to be honest, I was completely bought into that system. I aspired to be rich, I aspired to have that power, but very quickly, almost within a year or two of doing that, I started to get a bit bored and it stopped making sense to me. And I was like, why am I in this sort of a rat race where I'm working crazy hours just trying to accumulate money? What does all of this mean? And there was a sense of curiosity within me, which forced me to think, hang on a minute, is this all life is about, of just making a good living? Or is there something perhaps a bit more to it? And this sort of inner questioning and a quest to find myself took me down various different routes. I moved from London to Bangkok. I completely gave up on the financial career for a while, and I moved to Bombay, and I wanted to become a Bollywood actor. You see where
Oh,
the spiritual story is going? It ends up in Bombay as well. So I was in Juhu and Bandra for a couple of years, living the life of an aspirational actor. I absolutely loved that period, being able to perform every day, be a new character every day, and made some really good friends at that time as well. But again, and whilst it was greatly enjoyable, it was not what I was looking for, and there was something a bit missing, and something just didn't feel right. And then I came back to Bangkok, but inside I carried this nagging feeling of incompleteness, not really knowing what this whole thing was about, feeling a bit confused because, on the one side, there was this Ved who was doing really well in school and college and went and became a banker. And he also got the opportunity of becoming an actor. Life was a dream, basically. And still, there was something missing. And so I went to one other extreme. For a couple of years, I decided to sort of take a break from the job, from the mainstream world, and I wanted to explore what it would be like to be a hippie. So I just went and lived on the beaches for many, many months. No income, no earning, no security. And I wanted to really put myself out for that challenge. And that was a brilliant challenge as well. But the common theme that sort of annoyed me and frustrated me to a certain extent is that when I was too close to religion, I saw the shortcomings of religion as well. When I was too close to materialism and banking, I saw the corruption and the greed over there as well. When I was too close to the glamour industry, I saw, and I don't need to tell people about what goes on in the glamour industry. I saw all the frustrations and the corruptions of the glamour industry as well. And then I'd given up the whole world and I was living this recluse life of being a hippie, and then I started to see corruption and greed over there as well. And it just did not make any sense. Like I was not finding my answers anywhere. And I would say that that journey of trying to find myself and trying to find that inner peace is what brought me to spirituality. And suddenly, all those faint echoes that I had from my childhood of having grown up in a temple and hearing all these great men speak about spirituality and finding yourself and finding peace and finding God, it started to make a lot more sense. And one of the frustrations of life for me was that, growing up, you always have this thing that, oh, these are ideals and these are morals and this is spirituality, but this is real life. And they are somehow opposed to each other. In Hindi, we have a word called dunyadari. There is
yeah.
adhyatma and then there is dunyadari. And you're like, you do adhyatma when you do adhyatma, and then you come back to dunyadari. And they somehow they don't mix very well. And this was for me, especially as a science student, as an engineering student, I needed things to fit. And I was like, I can't make these two things fit. On the one hand, we speak about all these idealistic moral things, and somehow the reality is very, very different from it, especially, the world that we live in the 21st century. If you want to look around for greed and corruption, it's very easy to find it. So I was like, what's going on? And what I would say helped me and might help some of the people who are listening on to this is silence. When nothing makes sense, when you have tried every option out there, when your father is a priest and your mother is a poet and a philosopher herself, and still when nothing makes sense, I think it's time to give up and really, really surrender to the silence within. And to that extent, I'd say meditation brought me a lot of peace. But the real answer to all of this, that it's not in meditation, it's not in going to the temple as well, perhaps it's not even in the pursuit of happiness in this outer world, but reality and life and all of the magic is happening in this very second. It's here, it's right now. It
Yeah.
does not happen in some point in the future, it does not happen in some point in the past. If we can make friends with whatever situation we've got in front of us today, if we can be at peace with this beautiful golden moment right now, then we've got access to eternity. And because I am on this platform speaking to the youth of this forum, I would say that there is a beautiful challenge in front of all of you. Life is really like a guru. It will bang you about, it will smash your head, it will cause you all sorts of pain and grief. And those are the challenges. It's like a video game to a certain extent. You have to kind of
Mhm.
take it on. A lot of the times, if I look back at my life when I was going through the frustrations and when I was feeling a little bit dissatisfied, I had a tendency of trying to escape these frustrations, trying to run away from these challenges. But you don't find peace running away from the storm. The only place where you'd find the most peaceful spot is in the eye of the storm. It's in the middle of it. It's happening inside you right now, all of the infinity. And one of the things that one of my university friends likes to quote sometimes, and I would do so here again on this platform, is that a lot of the times we might feel that we are human beings occasionally having a spiritual experience, but in reality, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So spirituality is not something that we can separate from the materialistic world and kind of look at it as polar opposites. We can't say, oh, he's a very materialistic person and he's a very spiritual person, because that causes a divide. And if you feel spirituality within you, you realize there is no divide. Even the most materialistic person is my brother, and even the most spiritual person is my brother. And even the most peaceful and the virtuous person is inside of me, and the biggest sinner is also inside of me. The whole cosmos is happening in here. I don't really need to look too far for inspiration. A lot of the times, if we take this view that we are somehow detached from reality, that there is a Ved or there is a Mr. Thakur who is separate from this world altogether, then we can start to make a lot of new stories in here. And that can cause the illusion that somehow we are separate and we are not spiritually connected, and we are only materialistic, or we are agnostic or atheist or Hindu or Sikh or Muslim or whatever. But in reality, this is a great dance and a song that's got all of us in it, whether we like it or not. And it's beautiful if we come to realize it. It's a beautiful, being spiritual just adds magic to your life. You can call it anything. You can call it your inner peace. You can call it God. You can call it your best friend. You can call it a support system. But it's really, if one is wondering whether I should be spiritual or not, or should I at least give this a try, then it's a matter of what sort of perspective that you want to live with. Because a lot of the times, especially in pop culture, the way the scientific thought kind of goes, it tries to distill the human condition down to matter, into atom, into subatomic particles, and then it says that that's an unintelligent form of life. and all that we are made up of is a complicated set of that unintelligent form. So we are nothing. And we are this tiny, tiny, tiny little thing in this vast, vast cosmos. We are nothing. And it's a perspective that puts down the human condition. It makes little of our human condition. And it's having very significant impact on the way that we live lives. The world today in the 21st century is not euphoric. It's depressed, it's stressed, it's frustrated, it's facing mental health issues, it's facing a society that's increasingly divided. We are more interested in labels than reality. And spirituality, I'm not saying that one needs to go, because I'm saying this from a little bit of experience here. You can go to one extreme and then to the other extreme, but the answer is not on either extreme. The answer is right now in this very moment. And I don't really want to profess too much about what spirituality means. I strongly believe that the younger generation of today is a lot more evolved, is a lot more understanding of the modern conditions, and it's looking for an answer, much like I was looking for the answer through my life, and I'm still looking for some of those answers. The the youth of today is asking the right sort of questions. It's trying to solve the right sort of problems of the 21st century. And we are not a world that is trying to solve famine and hunger and poverty as much as we are trying to solve some of the problems of excess, of greed, of destroying our planet and climate change. And the younger people, they understand it, and they understand that we are part of this nature. And if any sort of positivity is going to come into this world, we can't wait for the government or for our elders to provide it to us. It's got to come from within. And in that respect, I would say I would love to hear what spirituality means to some of the younger people joining us on this call today, rather than go on and on talking about my own personal experience. But that, in essence, has been my story. And that's where I draw some spiritual wisdom from as well.
Yeah, Ved, I want to ask you whether, like, we have, since your name is Ved, so on Vedas and spiritual books, what we have a Bhagavad Gita, what you have taken from that? Does it, in that one, have you taken something which has brought you to this level? Does that impact you? Bhagavad Gita, I think that's how
Absolutely right,
our,
because the you see the thing that we have to emphasize here is, because our recent journey as a society has been predicated on the scientific revolution, and the scientific revolution really came after the Middle Ages, where there was a lot of superstition, there was a lot of chaos, and there was a lot of disease. Europe was going through the worst plague that humanity has ever seen, and half of their population in some areas were completely wiped out, and they needed a revolution, and that's where the scientific revolution came from. But the way the scientific revolution thinks of itself is that time is linear and societal evolution is linear, and we get smarter day by day. And there is some truth to that. However, we are taking the first few baby steps as far as the scientific thought is concerned. It's only a couple of centuries old. If we look back at the entirety of human history, and even the early human civilizations, then there have been some great scholars and sages who have thought about time, who have thought about reality on a completely different dimension. I don't know how they got there, but they managed to get there. And what they managed to do was they managed to see reality for what it is. And the word rishi, it comes from the element ri, which is in Sanskrit to be able to see. My name, Ved as well, or the Vedas, they also come from the root word of vidya, which means to be able to see, that is visible. In fact, this is the same root word that goes all the way into modern day English and becomes vision and video. And we share a lot of these roots with the global languages. Anyway, so my point is, these rishis, these sages who wrote the Vedas, who wrote the Bhagavad Gita and stuff like that, they were able to see humanity and the human condition beyond the cyclicality. Life and history tends to go in cycles. We have the good times, and then we take the good times for granted, and then we see the bad times, and then in the bad times we all unite together, and we are determined, and we recreate those good times. And so history goes on and on and on. So I wouldn't say that the scientific thought is yet comprehensive in the way it looks at the human condition, but a lot of wisdom has come to me through the Vedas, through Bhagavad Gita. Now, not directly, I've not been a scholar of those things myself, but like I mentioned earlier, my dad is a priest. He is studied in the traditional way of Hindu philosophy. My mom is very curious about those things as well. So these are discussions that we have had very frequently in our household, and I'm very privileged to be in this sort of an environment where these type of things are being discussed within the family. Um, the prayer that I said at the start, it also comes from the Vedas, and my father has been kind enough to share with me a lot of shlokas and mantras which have given me, and he just doesn't tell me the mantras, he tells me the meaning behind that as well. And so I've been in a very privileged position to actually receive this sort of wisdom from my parents, at the same time be a student of engineering and finance, which kind of gives me a slightly different perspective on these things. But my understanding of Hindu philosophy is that it's universal. Especially the Hindu philosophy that we kind of see today has gone through many iterations of these cycles that I speak about. And in its approach towards life, into um, what connection that humanity has with the supreme or the cosmos, it's very universal in its appeal. The Hindu philosophy at its very root does not see differences in people based on their race, religion, sex, anything of that nature. Yes, there are permutations that come about through history, but in essence, there are some fundamental truths which have been said by these rishis at a very early stage, and they reverberate through times. There are some basic statements that are made in the Vedas, for example, such as Tattvamasi, you are not what you think you are something else. Aham Brahmasmi, I am the entire cosmos. And these are not just things that now relate to the Hindu religion anymore. In fact, there is a huge appeal for the modern day scientific community to come and explore these things in the Vedas, because that's the sort of a species that we are eventually becoming. Our game is no longer about, hey, that's my piece of land and that's my piece of land. In fact, we are living increasingly in a world where we are thinking about colonizing Mars, and we are going to be an intergalactic species. And no longer are we going to be satisfied by philosophies that are narrow minded. And in saying so, I would say some of the core founding principles of the Hindu philosophy are very universal in its appeal. Having said that, I would also say that this is not unique in any way to the Hindu way of philosophy. I have also been curious enough to explore Buddhism and Taoism and Zen Buddhism. And there are these little nuggets of wisdom which are very, very simple, which are stuff that you hear from your grandmother or a nice little fellow on the street. And you sometimes take it for granted that you should be a nice and kind-hearted person, that you should be generous, that you should take care of your loved ones, that you should take care of people in the society. Some very simple nuggets of truth, not even wisdom, that we take for granted, that have reverberated around history. And the whole world pretty much speaks the same sort of language. One particular reference that comes to my mind over here is, let's take the Sanskrit word jnana. It means wisdom or knowledge. As we go west from India, the jnana sound slowly becomes gnana. If we go to Gujarat, the gya sounds become the gn sound, gnana. If we keep going west, 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 west to ancient Greece, they referred to knowledge and wisdom as gnosia or gnosis. And that is the root word which gives us the modern day word for knowledge. If we notice, it starts with a K. It's knowledge, and it comes from the Greek gnosia, and the root of it is in jnana. And if we go east from India, we move to China, jnana becomes chan, and it is a very important word in a lot of ancient Chinese philosophy. And then if we move further east from there and go to Japan, chan becomes zen. And in that, we have to realize that these simple truths that we are talking about, we are not divided. We are not Indian. We are not Hindu alone. We are a cosmic species. We are very, very connected, and the whole world is singing in union. Over the last few years and decades, we have been seeing growing divides and frictions within society, where people start to see a lot of this is us and that is them. And I think these are just courses that history has to take through. But if we really take a moment to pause and reflect and see, there is very little dividing us. In fact, all the divisions that we have are causes of celebration and diversity. It's like different flowers in a garden. No
Mhm.
flower is superior or inferior. They're all beautiful flowers, and that's what us human beings are as well. And thank you for asking me that question about the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita. But I would say the most divine wisdom that I've received from any of them is that nothing that I do or no wisdom that I attain makes me any superior or inferior to anybody, because we are in this together, brothers and sisters, a cosmic family.
Mhm. Okay. Does spirituality, uh, according to your point of view, spiritually does it impact on your health or your daily life?
Absolutely, 100%.
100%. That's.
Because
Hmm.
because if we realize the magic that's happening within our bodies,
Uh-huh.
and if we realize that we are here to do some service to the world around us, to be of help to the fellow man, that service or that help can only begin first and foremost with yourself. If you are gasping for oxygen, if you are not doing well, you're not going to be able to help the fellow passenger. And so I would say, yes, in fact, I'd never directly thought about it that way. But if I look back at my personal health as well, before I tended to become a bit more spiritual, when I was taking life for granted and I was a young boy having fun in his life, I was taking my health for granted as well. And the health and the personal life improves not as a result of you wanting to be more selfish and more self-centered, but more so because you realize that the entirety of all the good and the all the wisdom in the world is happening in here, and you've got to nurture this plant first and foremost in order for it to bear the fruits that would be of any use to the society. So yes, it's definitely helped me, and I think finding that inner peace, most of modern day ailments, most of modern day health problems, be it physical or mental health problems, are rooted in stress. And I would not say that spirituality is a medicine that can cure stress, but more like spirituality is this light which allows you to see what reality is and almost laugh at your stress. The both are trembling, and it's a matter of perspective. And I think spirituality can give you that shift in perspective. That's all. Nothing changes. There's no magic that happens. There's no miracle that happens per se in the physical realm, but it
Hmm.
can feel miraculous because you have a shift in perspective. And the trembling of laughter, if you look at what laughter is from a scientific perspective, it's a trembling mechanism, and it's very closely related to the trembling of anxiety. And the difference between anxiety and laughter is just a shift in perspective. What you saw as threat, you just see it as reality, and it's just there, and it's life still goes on, and you can have a laugh at it. And by bringing spirituality into our lives, and it's not a must, nobody is forcing anybody to be spiritual, If you can bring peace into your life without being spiritual, then go down that route, because your peace is more important than a spiritual path. But for me and for many people out there, spirituality can bring an element of peace. And I think, and I have quite a strong conviction about it, that if in the 21st century, 80 to 90% of ailments are being caused by stress, and there is a mechanism which allows us to sort of reduce that stress and make ourselves more peaceful, more calm, more relaxed, then yes, it helps in keeping better health and keeping a better life. And it's definitely helped me.
My next question was this: how, which is the right way to express the spirituality? How we express to fellow person?
Okay, so in that sense, I would say spirituality is a very personal thing. And at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, it's paradoxical, and that's why these things are fascinating, right? Because they come at you like riddles. They never come
Mm-hmm.
at you like a straight line. If it was straight line, there would be no fun in life. It would just be like, yeah, everybody knows this. But there's a riddle element to it. It's fun and it's game. Um, so I would say spirituality is both a very, very personal thing and also a very, very universal thing. Universal in the effect that it helps you realize how connected you are to everybody. We live in the modern times where we don't even have to look too far. We realize how connected we are to everybody, even people in remote parts of the world that have nothing to do with us because of COVID-19. Right? If anything really needed to remind us that we are all very connected as human beings and as life forms, then COVID-19 has really done that. So we are very, very connected, and spirituality is universal in that sense. But it's also very, very personal. And I think personally, I've been very fortunate and very grateful that I've received parenting, which has allowed me to express that individualism in my spirituality as well. Because what happens inside my brain and inside my heart is my personal space. The way I choose to express it is a very personal choice. It would be the same as asking different flowers. I'm going back to that example. Is there the right way to express being a flower? No, you can be a blue flower, you can be a red flower, you can be a white flower. It's really allowing yourself to be and accept what you are. If you are a businessman, then you can be very spiritual as a businessman. If you're a doctor, you can be extremely spiritual being a doctor. If you're a butcher, you can be very spiritual being a butcher. So I would say it's something that's not an exclusive club only to those people who do a certain lifestyle or something like that. But it's really something that we can all find within ourselves if we are curious enough.
How you start your day? दिनचर्या जो बोलते हैं ना, सुबह उठना, फिर पूजा करना, पाठ करना, या go to the temple, sanskar, like we go to the parents, we bow down to them, to the idols and the parents before going to this one. I want to know about the young like you. You still do it? I know your sanskar is like this in your family.
Yeah,
I
I've
want to
been very
know.
blessed in the department of sanskars. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be that I've been a very good boy all my life. We all have naughty elements to us, and I think those naughtiness is to be celebrated as well. But yes, growing up, like I mentioned, I learned a lot of Sanskrit mantras and shlokas from my father. So my dincharya, if I'm to share that, it starts with light exercise, maybe some yoga. Then I'll take a shower and I'll do my morning meditation. That's been very helpful for me. A morning and an evening meditation, it just ties up my day beautifully in how I begin and how I end my day. In terms of other rituals that I follow, I would say a morning prayer every day. So I'm doing something called the Purush Sukta in the morning, a Shri Sukta. If I don't really have time, when I take the motorbike to work, I would sit on that motorbike and do that prayer as well. Because I'm again living the life of a banker right now. It's a very busy life, but I managed to get all these things in. And generally, I would say I have a lot of respect and regard for rituals and tradition, not
Okay.
because we are supposed to close our minds and close our eyes and ears and just blindly follow something that somebody has told us. No, but because hidden in these rituals, hidden in these daily routines is a very subtle level of magic, which only reveals itself after you have been dedicated to it for a prolonged number of time. And it can vary from person to person, but the reason why we have rituals and the reason why we have traditions is because, again, some of our elders and ancestors back in the day, they realized that, hang on a minute, guys, we've got something really magical here that we'd like to share with our future generations. But and you know, there are many ways of doing it. They put that wisdom in the scriptures, like you mentioned, the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gitas. They also put it into tradition. You know, our Indian culture is very rich in tradition, in sanskars. And I think the real purpose behind these things was to give our young ones a disciplined life, a measured life, and really an access to this divine peace that has been inserted in there. So I think it has a lot of value. It brings me a lot of value on a day-to-day basis. And again, I would say to anybody, any young person listening on this, that there is no reason to follow anything except for your own reason. Find that reason, because then that is going to be your reason. I see a lot of young people have a very rebellious side to them. I've had a very rebellious side as well. Not so much in my acts, but more so in my thought, because I was curious. I was like, hey, hang on a second, this doesn't really fit and this doesn't really work. So let's explore, let's find out. And I think that's something that the young people are very good at doing, very capable of doing. Finding yourself through rituals, through traditions, be it whatever, you can carve out your own spiritual path. For me, yes, the sanskars and the daily rituals have definitely helped me quite a lot.
Thank you very much, Ved. Now we have Prem here. He's a singer, come actor. Like you were in Bombay. He's in Bombay, and today we are late because of him, and he was at shoot. So finally he made it, and he's the one who triggered the show. All right,
No,
Oh, he's
Prem
been
ji.
doing a fantastic job. I saw one of your previous episodes. First of all, my
थैंक
respect to you, sir.
नहीं नहीं, रिस्पेक्ट तो मैं करूंगा आप सबकी, क्योंकि आपकी इतनी देर से मैं बातें सुन रहा हूँ और बहुत ही अच्छे अच्छे कमेंट्स भी आए हैं। और जैसे कि सर ने बताया, मेरी वजह से आज लेट हो गया है, तो मैं सारे दर्शकों को कुछ कहूंगा कि आई
नहीं
एम
नहीं,
रियली
थोड़ा
सॉरी, क्षमा
नहीं नहीं
चाहता हूँ
आप
मैं। और
ये
एक्चुअल क्या होगा ना सर, बारिश की वजह से मैंने तो सोचा था कि आज 7 बजे ही मैं रेडी हो जाऊंगा, बट कुछ रास्ते में ट्रैफिक वगैरह, बट शूट अच्छी हुई हमें, तो वो मेरी बहुत मुझे खुशी है। आज जो मैं आज शूट करके आया हूँ, बहुत ही अच्छी शूट हुई है।
हाँ
और
हाँ
जिनके साथ मैं ये आज शूट करके आया हूँ, और वही आज के गेस्ट हैं, और वही
चलो
कुछ आपसे रूबरू होना चाहते हैं। आप सभी
चलो
उनको जानते हैं, और पिछले एपिसोड में भी हमारे साथ थी। आप तो जानते ही हैं पत्नी सर। तो
जी
मैं अभी ये नहीं समझता हूँ कि मैं उनको बुलाऊं, मैं चाहता हूँ आप उनको बुलाओ।
चलो लेट्स वेलकम मिस इंडिया 2013 मिस सिमरन आहूजा। उनको बुलाते हैं, उन्होंने काफी शोज किए हुए हैं एंड शी इज अ सेलिब्रिटी इन वेलकम टू द शो सिमरन जी।
Global Namaste. It is such a
नमस्कार।
pleasure to be here, and
Yeah,
thank
Ved
you
is
so much.
here. I want you should interact with Ved also. He's also ex Bollywood star also.
I'm not a Bollywood star. I wish I was. But I had some fun in Bollywood for sure. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now he's in Bangkok. He's stationed in Bangkok. He he's doing all finance. What you call tips on a
I'm a
finance. And you're
consultant.
working
Yeah.
consultant. Yes. So so now in pandemic timing, people they don't know where to invest, so they come to you all. So I'll
Yeah,
send some
I'm
people
lucky.
too. Yeah.
Papni Thakurji, I must mention this. I mean, this is simply, people who come to Ved Vyas are also lucky enough because your people don't have finance and your people come to you for advice. Let me tell you, Ved Vyas, what a magnificent name. The name itself has that depth, and it is so wonderful knowing you, and, you spoke about, being the naughty one. I think you all beautiful spiritual souls going through this human experience. So we need to really experience all the rasas of life because that's what life is all about. And, to be that perfect being, you need to really experience the imperfections, which will make you in a better way perfect. So it's been such a pleasure to be here in front of our legend, Papni Thakurji. I am such a big fan of you and the kind of work that you do. And of course, your words of wisdom always take me on a natural high. I love your
Uh,
backdrop too. It's the
oh, thank
universe.
you.
Oh, beautiful.
जी
Thank you so much for having me here. Absolutely my pleasure.
जी अभी 15 मिनट और है तो आपको कुछ यूथ के लिए कुछ मैसेज देना हो तो वेद जी सिमरन जी दोनों आप कुछ मैसेज आज तैयार किया हो तो बता दें स्पिरिचुअलिटी के ऊपर
I'm just taking a look at the beautiful backdrop that you have, and of course, this reminds me of the very grand celebration of the 7th International Yoga Day, which we had just a couple of hours back as well, because it's still, mid noon in the United States. So I'm going to take this wondrous opportunity of telling you all, it's all about the breath of life, as we all know how important our breath is. We all know what happens when we lose our breath. So why don't we give it importance and realize that every single breath you really owe either to the divine love that you believe in, to that higher reality you believe in, and make sure that every breath is precious. As we live, a single day in our life, be it a birthday, International Yoga Day, we celebrate yoga, Global Wellness Day, we celebrate wellness. We had Father's Day as well. We had World Music Day yesterday. So we have one day for celebration. But let me tell you, every breath is extremely precious that we are alive in this world. And the only thing to keep us alive is the breath. So make sure you take deep breaths and experience anger, but you've experienced it earlier in your life. No more, no more. Let it be completely every breath dedicated to peace, love, harmony, and happiness. And let us truly inculcate everything in our life which is going to make every breath precious. And that is the essence of life. So today, taking a look at the backdrop and being inspired by Papni Thakurji and by the lovely message that Ved Vyas has given, as well as lovely experiences that I heard, this is something which is really from deep
Okay.
within my heart.
Simran, I want to share with you same thing what you said, the International Yoga Day, and here in Bangkok also we did it, and I was a part of Indian Association Thailand. We did this one, but since due to pandemic we had a limitation at 20 people. So 20 people. I mean, they were in various places, and all they were connected with a Zoom with the Embassy of India, and we did mark our what you call a 7th International Yoga Day. And definitely we keep on doing. It's not that only on 21st June, but we keep on doing. Like Vedya say in the morning, he does some exercises in this thing. You also keep doing, and you're fit and trim, ना? Very good. So वेद व्यास जी, अभी आप कुछ बताएं.
Yeah, I think I've been
अभी
sharing
सिमरन आ गई तो
fair
उसके
amount.
बाद अभी क्या बताएंगे.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Oh,
Hi, Simran. Nice to meet you.
okay. Lovely meeting you, Ved Vyas. And, okay, so I'll tell you this in private when I'm in person with both of you, but I love the place that y'all stay, both of y'all. So it is my favorite place. And I think my wellness belongs to the place where y'all stay. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Yeah,
जी.
thanks for those kind words. We love this country as well, and the city we live in. It's the city of angels. Definitely had the privilege of coming across a fair few today, Mr. Thakur being one of those as well. And thanks for sharing that beautiful message about breath. It really connects us to this moment. It helps me connect to this moment. And I think if we needed any reminder about how precious this life is, then the global pandemic has sort of shed a bit more light on that as well, right? Um, So I think, yes, there's a lot of gratitude in there, in being able to breathe, in being able to be aware of our breath, and in being able to connect to this very moment, which is also precious.
ठीक है,
So true.
अभी बोलते हैं ना, समय से हमें बदलना पड़ता है। जो पुराने जो लोग थे और अब हैं, हमें समय से बदलना पड़ता है। एंड डेफिनेट वी नीड ए चेंज, और चेंज के साथ हमें बढ़ता जाना है आगे। और जो भी करना है, पहले इच्छा होनी चाहिए, दिमाग से चालू होती है इच्छा, जस्ट लाइक दैट। फिर उसके बाद निर्णय लेते हैं, डिसीजन लेते हैं। डिसीजन के बाद फिर निश्चय करते हैं कि ये करना है, आई वांट टू डू इट। सॉरी, आई एम स्पीकिंग लिटिल इन हिंदी, सो वी हैव अ बोथ ऑडियंस, हिंदी एंड इंग्लिश। सो
बिल्कुल,
जी जी जी। तो
बहुत खूब।
इच्छा, निर्णय और निश्चय, ये 3 वर्ड आज का जो मैंने चूज किया था, मैंने सब व्यूअर्स को बताऊंगा। ये 3 वर्ड्स डेफिनेटली रखना। कई लोग खाली इच्छा करते हैं, मुझे ये करना है, वो करना है, लेकिन आगे नहीं बढ़ते हैं। उसके बाद नेक्स्ट, जब इच्छा की है मुझे चांद पे जाना है, तो लोग बोलते हैं मुझे चांद पे जाना है, लेकिन उसके बाद निर्णय करते हैं मुझे इस तारीख को जाना है, इस रॉकेट पे जाना है, तो फिर उसके बाद उसमें चढ़ना है, फिर निश्चय कर देना भाई आज मैं जाऊंगा, उसके लिए प्रिपरेशन करेंगे। सो दिस इज, हर एक प्रोग्राम जो भी करते हैं दुनिया में, जिंदगी में, तो हमें ये 3 बातों को जरूर ध्यान देना चाहिए। सिर्फ इच्छा नहीं करनी है, उसके बाद एंड में निश्चय भी जरूर करना है, उसके बाद बढ़ना। जो हमारे सलमान खान का भी एक डायलॉग है ना, एक दफा मैंने जो कह दिया
फिर मैंने
नहीं
आप
सुनता हूँ। हाँ हाँ, तो ही फाइनली डज इट दैट वन। तो हमें कुछ भी करना है तो फाइनली डज करना है। जो मुझे ये शो करना है और शो किया, और मुझे वेद व्यास को बुलाना था, आए थे, थैंक यू वेरी मच, आज इस शो पे आए। और व्यूअर्स को मैं कहना चाहूँगा, इफ़ यू हैव एनी कमेंट्स और एनी क्वेश्चंस, प्लीज़ राइट टू अस एंड वील गेट बैक टू यू। और हमेशा प्रेम जी कुछ न कुछ एक भजन या कुछ न कुछ गाना सुनाते हैं, गुनगुनाते हैं। तो आज चुप करके बैठे हैं, तो मैंने सोचा एंडिंग में कुछ भजन या कुछ आज क्या शूट करके आए, वही गुनगुनाए।
वाह, वो तो बहुत ही स्पेशल है। मैं जरूर कहना चाहूंगी कि बहुत ही खूबसूरत, माशाल्लाह इतना सुंदर गीत है वो। लेकिन उससे पहले पपनी ठाकुर सर, मैं इतना कहना चाहूंगी हमारे व्यूअर्स से फॉर टुडे स्पेशली कि जहाँ से हमारी शुरुआत हुई, जब मैं इस शो में आई अबाउट वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फाइनेंस,
जी
तो आप सबसे कहना चाहूंगी आपको गाइडेंस चाहिए फाइनेंस पे, जो बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट था। फाइनेंस से मैं ब्रेथ पे आ गई, तो प्लीज वेद व्यास के साथ कनेक्ट कीजिए, बिकॉज मैं भी वही करने वाली हूँ। आई वांट टू कनेक्ट विद on how to invest and make the most out of this point of time and know where you'll really gain and gain benefits out of this. And time for us to listen to a beautiful song by Prem Bhartiya.
जी, माइक ऑफ।
सर अभी आपने सॉन्ग के बारे में बता ही दिया है, तो क्या बताऊं, आपने बहुत अच्छी अच्छी बातें की। मैंने इतनी देर से सुन ही रहा था आपकी सब बातें, और सिमरन जी के साथ भी आज काम करके बहुत अच्छा लगा, क्योंकि इतने दिनों बाद जो वर्ल्ड सिंधी छेज बनाई थी हमने, उसके बाद कुछ नया करने की कोशिश की है, और वो क्या रंग लाती है वो तो एडिटिंग के बाद और रिलीज होने के बाद ही पता चलेगा। लेकिन जैसे आपने बोला कि आवाज आ रहा है कुछ,
वो आपका ही आ रहा है, प्रेम जी आपके इधर ही है। हेलो प्रेम जी,
तो
आपके इधर
सॉरी,
ही है, रिवर्ब
एक्चुअल
हो रहा
नेटवर्क
है
इशू
जी।
है यहाँ पे, लेकिन
जी चलो, नेटवर्क इशू है तो फिर वी एंड विद
एक्चुअल क्या हो गया ना सर, मैं आपको बताता हूँ
जी
कि मैं जहाँ से आ रहा हूँ वहीं से ही सिमरन जी भी आ रही है। हम अभी शूट करके खत्म करके अभी आए हैं, तो वॉइस थोड़ी क्लैश होगी, क्योंकि यहाँ इंटरनेट एक ही हॉल में है। तो मैं कहीं और बैठा हूँ, सिमरन जी वहां बैठे हैं, तो मैं गाऊंगा, कुछ गाऊंगा। लेकिन पपनी सर आप कुछ बताओ तब तक।
नहीं, अभी
लास्ट में
मैं
मैं गा
बोला
के खत्म होगा, क्योंकि हमारे पास 6 मिनट है।
ओके, 6 मिनट है। तो 6 मिनट के लिए वेद जी, आप अभी कुछ हो तो आप बताएं।
Okay, I was looking forward to Premji singing something,
जी
but I would just go back to thanking you, Mr. Thakur, for having me on this platform, for connecting with these wonderful people. And yeah, again, my main message to the youth of today, as far as spirituality or anything is concerned, I have a lot of respect for the younger people. I've come across a lot of people younger than me who have inspired me, who have shown me that, they are doing the right things to make this world a better place. They are thinking about the problems of the 21st century and solving them daily. So there's not much that I can really guide them onto, except share with them my own personal journey and say that, they enjoy their own personal journey. It's precious and it's magical and it's beautiful. So go out there and enjoy your spirituality. And if you're not in the mood of being very spiritual as well, then enjoy it nonetheless. Just have a good life and yeah, make the most of it. Thank you.
अभी बचपन की याद करें तो मुझे याद आ गया कि मैं स्कूल में जब था तो वो प्रेयर्स करते थे मॉर्निंग में। तो अभी वो प्रेयर मैंने आज नोट किए हैं, तो आई विल शेयर विथ यू। तो छोटा सा गीत जो हम रोज सुबह को गाते थे। दया कर दान भक्ति का हमें परमात्मा देना, दया करना हमारी आत्मा को शुद्धता देना, दया करना हमारी आत्मा को शुद्धता देना। हमारे ध्यान में आओ प्रभु, आँखों में बस जाओ। हमारे ध्यान में आओ प्रभु, आँखों में बस जाओ। अंधेरे दिल में आकर के परम ज्योति जगा देना, अंधेरे दिल में आकर के परम ज्योति जगा देना, दया कर दान भक्ति का हमें परमात्मा देना। बहा दो प्रेम की गंगा, दिलों में प्रेम का सागर। बहा दो प्रेम की गंगा, दिलों में प्रेम का सागर। हमें आपस में मिलजुल कर प्रभु रहना सिखा देना, हमें आपस में मिलजुल कर प्रभु हमें रहना सिखा देना। दया कर दान भक्ति का हमें परमात्मा देना। ये छोटी सी प्रेयर थी जो बचपन में गाता था। थोड़ा काफ़ी सालों के बाद, आज मुझे 50 साल हो गए, तो ये प्रेयर आज मुझे कहाँ से बैठे सुबह को बैठ के लिख रहा था। एंड देयर आर सर्टेन वर्ड्स आई हैव टू करेक्ट। मे बी नेक्स्ट एपिसोड आई एम गोइंग टू सिंग इन अ प्रॉपर वे।
नहीं सर, नेक्स्ट एपिसोड से मैं प्रॉपरली गाऊंगा। आज तो आपने बहुत ही अच्छा गाया है। और जैसे कि आपने बताया ना सर, वो कि इच्छा और
जी
3 आपने टॉपिक बताए थे। कुछ एक टॉपिक मुझे भी याद आ रहा है कि बहुत सारे लोग ऐसे होते हैं कि किसी के कहने पे चुप हो जाते हैं और कुछ करते नहीं है, कि इसने ये कहा है और ये बहुत ही खराब बोल दिया है मेरे बारे में, और डिमोटिवेट हो जाते हैं। मैं चाहता हूँ कि इसके बारे में भी कुछ आगे एक लेक्चर होना चाहिए नेक्स्ट ट्यूसडे को। बट उनके लिए मुझे तो ये याद आता है कि कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना, छोड़ो बेकार की बातों को, कहीं बीत न जाए रहना। कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, तो कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, मैं चाहता हूं कि नेक्स्ट एपिसोड सर इसी पे हम करें, कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे।
ठीक है, कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, डेफिनेटली
जी
प्रेम जी उसके ऊपर भी आएंगे।
जी
तो आज थैंक यू वेरी मच वेद व्यास जी, आपने अच्छा वक्त दिया। प्रेम जी एंड सिमरन जी भी आई थी, और उनको भी बोलना है थैंक यू वेरी मच दैट शी
यस
केम
यस
ओवर आफ्टर। I know they were rushing from one to another, and they have another
जी
this one after dinner. They are going for another program, another shoot something. Okay, thank you very much. Before closing, that we have a small prayer. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामया, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ये कोविड के टाइम में सब खुद का ख्याल रखना, अच्छी तरह से जो प्रिकॉशंस हैं जो गवर्नमेंट दे रही हैं, इंजेक्शंस जो भी हैं लेना है टाइम पे। अपना ख्याल रखो। With this one, good night. Thank you very much.